Welcome back to SwitchCorner. It's time for our weekly look at what's coming up in this next week on the Nintendo Switch eShop. Now, outside of like AAA releases, I gotta say it's been a good few months as a Nintendo Switch owner, as long as you are willing to, dig a little bit and kind of look for the, let's say, the hidden gems. This week it's looking to be the exact same thing, except this week finally we've got AAA, and you know what it is, we've got Mario incoming. With that, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So as always, just a quick warning here, I don't look at every single game in this series, there's so much shovelware through the week. Here I just make my choice picks, and today I have like a total of, I think, 8 games for you. On the 14th, though, to get us started, we've got a couple more unusual ones because they actually dropped in the UK, Europe and Australia today, and it seems that us in the, the US and Canada, we have sadly a few more days to wait. First, it's Storia Seasons Friends of Mineral Town. This is one I am currently working on a review for, but I gotta say, damn, is this thing just like a time sink. It's actually a remake as well of the 2003 Game Boy Advance game Harvest Moon, but here we are seeing that, name change down to some publisher differences. Expect here though to be managing your farm, meeting the locals, and just, generally going out on like an adventure. It's for sure got that cute vibe to it all though, and I'm curious to see what audience this one pulls in, because I do feel like it's kind of like, competing with the Animal Crossing fanbase. Expect a review here in the next couple of days though, as we lead up to that North American release, where it's kind of going to be a hybrid video of part review, part like beginner's guide. Next then, also already out in the UK, Europe and Australia, we got Terrarium, perhaps one of the hardest games to search for by name on the eShop, just thanks to the way they've done it, as you can see above. This one though, it's coming from the mighty NIS America, and since my last experience of one of their titles was the mighty Trails of Cold Steel 3, this is a highlight of the week for me. Here, the world has basically been contaminated with a toxic fungi, and a robot and a decommissioned AI known as Factory AI come across a human girl. To save her, they must create a refuge for her within a terrarium. I have no idea what to expect from this one, honestly, but it's one of those that I know I'm kind of excited for, even with so little information. It's just nice to see something that's a little different, and the vibe I'm getting is it's kind of like an isometric RPG, but I'm just curious now to see, is it leaning more on the creation side of things or adventure and exploration? This should be good though, and I actually really like the price point too. So Neon Abyss now, and this seemingly just came out of nowhere in the last couple of weeks, or at least I just never noticed it before, and it looks like it could be something special. This one, it's coming from Team 17, and it's essentially some run and gun action where you evolve your character and weapons in ever evolving dungeons. It kind of has that Dead Cells with guns vibe to it, which honestly sounds awesome. Instead of talking about this one though, I'm going to tell you this. There's a free demo on the eShop that's available right now for download. It's like 300 megabytes. So if you pause this video, turn on your Switch, press download, come back here, watch the end of this video, I'm pretty confident by that time you'll be able to jump in and kind of go to war. I will say though, come back here, don't get distracted by all the other shiny games on the eShop. Alright, so this next one, it's for sure a wait for reviews before you go dropping any cash on it, but Boss Guard. This one, it's basically a asymmetrical multiplayer experience, so think like Friday the 13th, where one player controls the boss, and then you can have up to 4 additional players going up against them, so that boss is of course overpowered. It's basically if you took, that Friday the 13th, covered it in Disney colours, and I gotta be honest, that no doubt works well with the Switch branding. Fortunately though, this being a party game, I've gotta say the eShop is touting it does have online play. I'm just curious now if it includes bots, because that could be very much like a big difference between whether it's worth a buy or not. I know it could be really fun, or it could be extremely short-lived, so I'm willing to wait just on a few opinions first before I go pulling that credit card out. Visually though, I gotta say it looks great, so I'd be lying if I didn't say I was kind of tempted by this one. Next up then, a quick mention for the super cheap We Should Talk. It looks interesting, and that's why it's getting a mention. It's basically a narrative adventure asking you to make your relationship survive the night by interacting with those around you in a bar and via text messages. You're basically choosing words in a sentence with multiple options. This is probably, I gotta say, a day one buy for me, just because it could have a decent story, and I'm kind of a sucker for that. But I'm also just curious to see the whole kind of purpose behind the experience as well, and the options it's going to give you in these sentences. It's definitely trying something unique, which I respect, and it's a tiny studio, which I do like to support where I can. Hopefully though, this one can end up on like a hidden gems video in the future, and I'm not just wasting my cash. So it's also worth knowing here quickly before we do get to the last two games of the week. Caretaker, this was originally penned for last week, but the release, it was moved back a week and will now drop on the 16th. It's a first-person horror exploration game with a very cheap price tag, but I gotta say as well, very average reviews on like Steam and stuff. I'm waiting on reviews for this one, but it may be one for hardcore horror fans only. I am gonna try and get a review out myself though, because I don't think it's gonna get too much coverage, and there is nothing worse than considering a game and pretty much having like 0 opinions to go on. Okay, so the big two then. First up, Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. This one, it's for you turn-based strategy fans out there, and I've got to say I'm extremely excited for this one. I'll also be honest here though, I've actually been playing this game at this point for like, I think nearly 4 weeks now. This version, it's including though both the base game and the Heretic DLC, and I'll give you this, there's a ton of content, but I just can't give you my full opinion until the morning of release, so do look out for that. I will also say here as well though, I'm a long way from the end still, you know, I've really only just committed to it in this last couple of days, so I will say that final verdict is like still out on a decision. From what I'm seeing of reviews though, it's looking pretty good, at least for the Steam variation. My big question at this point though is, how does it translate from like a keyboard and mouse setup to now a controller? I think that's such a tough thing to do for any game in this genre, so I'm always curious to see how they make it work. The last game of the week then, can anyone guess what it is? Yes, it's obvious, but Paper Mario the Origami King. I'm not even going to talk about this in detail, you all know what it is. You're on this adventure to liberate Peach's castle, and yeah, all your favourite characters, they're of course returning. What I want to talk about though was the Nintendo Treehouse today. Did anyone else find it like super underwhelming? The game, it looks great, don't get me wrong, but it was impressive just how little they gave up, and the gameplay seemed to be like 10 minutes of fighting crayons as they told me how good these crayons were. I think what annoyed me even more though was the way forward announcement, this big announcement they were touting, and it was Bakugan. I'm clearly the wrong market for it, but I swear I haven't seen Bakugan outside of like my local Target store in about 10 years. Anyway, obviously Paper Mario is my #1 pick of the week. I have no doubt it's going to be pretty much amazing. Mario just rarely misses, so I will see you hopefully on the channel on release date for some like early impressions footage. And that's it, my top picks for the week, and a few riskier ones that I'm going to be considering. Be careful on the eShop this week though, I will say it seems to be, there's a lot of shovelware like being pushed into it. At least they did get rid of the disturbing looking Don't Get Caught. If you haven't seen that one yet, you should just do a quick Google search of Don't Get Caught Nintendo. It shows we may need a little bit more on the side of quality control for what gets, you know, a release date. Anyway, is there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. I want to give a quick shout out then to, of course, the Patreons of the channel. It truly is helping so much, and I really do appreciate it. I've actually linked it in the description below as well if you want to check it out for yourself. But thanks to those folks, just 2 weeks after launching, I can say I'm now working on what will be a best accessories for the Switch video. I want to get a little bit more on the hardware side of things for the channel, so let me know what you think of that in the comments below if you are, you know, a regular here. And as always, if you are new here and you like this content, you like reviews, you like deals, then consider hitting subscribe, join our growing community, join this family of just like passionate Switch fans. I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.